Hello everyone, my name is the Dreaming Gamer and welcome to DreamerTalk. So that opening you just heard came from Pixabay. Pixabay is a free site where you can go and get photos, music, they can be videos, they can be used for your podcasts, for your videos, for your own personal enjoyment. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I use them so I thought I'd let you guys know. So this is episode 2 of a Dreamer Talk, and I'm not surprised that I hit episode 2, but really excited that I got to episode 2. So last week we talked about Microsoft buying ZeniMax and what I thought about the short-term, long-term effects of that. So that was more of a news focus. This one is going to be a top 15 list. I want to do a discussion, and as you probably have already seen from the title, I want to talk about the Super Mario 64 levels and where I rank them. Now, before I get into that, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. So, I have been playing video games my entire life. I have I started with the NES, and now I'm all the way up to the Switch. I have played others. I do own other systems, like I owned a PlayStation 2, I own a PS3, and an Xbox 360. I don't own an Xbox One or a PS4, just because of just how things happen. And one of the most recent game I bought was the Mario 3D All-Star Collection. Now, originally when it was coming out, when there was rumors about it, I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it because how cool was that gonna be? Though we were gonna be able to play Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy on the Switch on the go. That was just super cool to me. But I didn't want to get my hopes up because you know how rumors are. But then the game came out, and why you can have your opinions about whether or not it's a cheap port, whether or not Nintendo should have remade it, whatever. We can all agree that they are pretty good games. They have their issues. But they're still pretty good. So, in anticipation of that, I went ahead and made a top 15 list of the worlds, and how I rank them. Now, your favorite is probably not gonna it's probably gonna be low on this list, or not where you think it should be, or there's gonna be a level that you think should be higher or lower. And that's just the joy of a game like Mario 64, one that has such a variety and such a big fan base, is that we can have this discussion about what we think is good, what we think is bad. So, let me start. There's 15 worlds in Super Mario 64, and at the bottom of the list, as my least favorite level, is going to be Rainbow Cruise. So, Rainbow Cruise is so low on my list because really I just cannot express my dislike for this level enough. Like between the carpets, the precise jumping, the fireballs for the little black circles, and Mario 64's patented miss and die jumps that you have to do, where you jump and if you miss it by a milli-inch, you just slide right off, and you get to listen to Mario go whoa and die. But there is a reason why it's the last level in the game. It's also the reason why it's at the bottom of my list, because I mean, yeah, I've seen people go through it and jump and do their triple jump and side jumps and all of that stuff, and I'm just not that good, and it's a struggling level for me. So that's why it's down at the bottom. Its only saving grace, is the fact that it is a pretty cool level in Smash Brothers. So number 14 is Tick Tock Clock. And so yes, with the inclusion of Tick Tock Clock, you can get the idea that the third floor is the worst to me. I think that they are the Rainbow Cruise and Tick Tock Clock are the worst levels in the game because they are honestly the hardest levels. Like, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, well, you could just get good. You're right, I could, and but until then, I'm still putting them down at the bottom of my list. So, Tick Tock Clock. If Rainbow Cruise represents the final challenge of all your skills, then Tick Tock Clock is the final gimmick level. Because Mario 64 levels are broken up into two categories: challenge and gimmick. And I think what really frustrates me about Tick Tock Clock is that you have to get the right time when you enter the level. Each star requires the clock to be moving at different speeds. If you don't know what speed you need until you're in the level. And if there was some way to change it in the level, then I would probably like it a lot better. But no, I just don't like that you got to go in at a certain time, and if it's too fast, you got to exit. The reason why I think it's higher on the list than Rainbow Cruise is because I've actually gotten stars from TikTok Clock, whereas Rainbow Cruise, I don't think I've gotten. I think I've gotten like two. So number 13 on my list is Shifting Sandland. So in this desert level, you have a cap stealing vulture. You have instant kills quicksand. You gotta fly. You got giant blocks waiting to squish you, and not to mention what's inside the pyramid. Honestly, it's so far down here because of the instant kill quicksand. Because I mean, you do one wrong jump, one slip, one too energetic whirlwind, and you are dead. Because, and it's not just there. You also got the whirlpools that are there that can get you, and it's your hat wears out at the wrong time. You're just dead. Now the pyramid, well, I mentioned the pyramid in a complaint. It is fun and challenging though. I will give it that. And then number 12 is Tall Mountain. And I don't know if you've noticed a pattern in these levels, but any level that is just floating in space tends to be low on my list. And Tall Mountain is just that. You got a giant. You gotta do your platforming onto the mushrooms. You got gust of winds that blow throughout the level, and then you got the chuck your enemy ready to hurl you into oblivion. Can just make the whole thing frustrating. Not to mention, this is the third slide, and the only one with a long way, which the slide can be fun, but just having to climb up the mountain just for a gust of wind to blow you off can get really, really frustrating. At least on the bright side, when you die on the slide, it puts you at the top of the slide. So number 11 is Tiny Huge Island. And Tiny Huge Island is here, honestly, because I can't really recall any details about it. I know its gimmick is it's two worlds in one. A world where everything is bigger than you, and one where everything is smaller. And I know there's a wiggler inside the mountain, and I really like wigglers. And then there's an evil Lakitu, and there's a fish that eats you, or drags you down to, no, he eats you. So, but that's what I remember about that. So, number 10. That's going to be Cool Mountain. It's another floating in space level, but it has that fun slide race with the penguin, and it features the game's first real platforming challenge-based star. About how, you gotta, it's on the backside of the level. You have to wall jump to get to a slant, and then you got to triple jump, wall jump. It's really to prepare you for stuff like Rainbow Cruise. I also really love how the penguins sound like car alarms. So now every time whenever I hear a car alarm, some car alarms do sound like the penguins themselves. So number 9 is Whomp's Fortress. And I recently watched a video and kind of what inspired this list. And they put Whomp's Fortress as number 1. And I couldn't disagree more. It's a fun level, don't get me wrong. And it reminds me of building blocks, but not Legos. But the actual like colorful blocks, colorful thick blocks that you used to play with as a kid, or at least I used to play with as a kid. Um, there's also Whomp's Fortress also features 2 stars that rely on the cannon, and the one where you gotta blast yourself to a pole. People who played Mario 64 know what I'm talking about. I think that's the bane of every Mario 64 player. Like, you gotta blast just perfect, or else you're just gonna keep on going. Boom. Now, if you are my wife, though, she gets it almost every time. Because she can thread a needle in a tornado with that cannon. Like, I don't know how she does it. She'll aim and fire and like, almost never miss. So, number 8 is Bomb Battlefield. So, Bomb Battlefield is the first level, the most iconic level besides Peach's Castle. And a lot of people have asked for like a updated version of it in other games. But it's also pretty standard and basic. I mean, I know that's the point. It's a tutorial level. It's allowed you to get comfortable playing with Mario, the cannon, the flying, the jumping, the fighting, and the whole 3D thing. But compared to the rest of the levels, it's kind of plain. I will say this. So I played Super Mario 64 the first time when I was a kid. And seeing a fully 3D world just spread out in front of me, That was amazing. That transition, for those of you that remember, the transition from 2D to 3D, that was an amazing event. An event I doubt gaming will ever be able to replicate. So number 7 is Lethal Lava Land. On any day, on most days actually, I will tell you the basement's levels suck. My honest opinion is that I think the basement levels just ramp up the difficulty. You just kind of going along, getting a little challenge, and then the cliff just, though the mountain just this mountain just appears, and you got the steep climb that you got to go up, because the game really takes off the kids' gloves and really starts to challenge you. However, when I was creating this list, I intended to put the basement levels at the bottom, but the more I thought about them, they're actually pretty fun. Yes, they are frustrating and challenging, but you gotta admit, like Lethal Lava Land, it's a cool level. You get to ride around the lava with a turtle shell. You climb into a volcano. It has the easiest red coins in the game. And now, what's not cool about the Triple L are the bullies. Because they certainly live up to their name as they just butt into you and just knock you into the lava just repeatedly. So, number 6 is Hazy Maid's Cave. And this was actually hard for me, deciding between Lethal Lava Land and Hazy Maid's Cave. But ultimately, I settled for Hazy Maid's Cave as better, but just barely. Hazy Maid's Cave, as people have played it, features Nessie, and the coolest of 3 caps, the metal cap. It also doesn't have, except for the giant hole in the center of where the boulders fall. It has no, it's not floating in space. There's no real way for you to die unless you get killed by poison or by the tons of monsters that are there, or the holes. Let's not forget the holes. There's also a board that you stand on buttons and you move around. That's kind of fun and kind of weird at the same time, or more challenging than weird, I should say. So, and you can get lost in it. That's why they got maps everywhere. So, number 5 is Snowman's Land. With a giant snowman watching over you, Snowman's Land is, in my opinion, the better of the 2 snow levels. Yes, it features a star that you only get 2 chances to get, where you got to jump on the little enemies with the propeller heads, so you can fly up to the star. But it does have an igloo, and the fact that you can't easily just slip and fall to your death is what really puts Land above Cool Mountain for me. As a child, because I was crazy, I would deliberately lose Mario's hat, because when you climb to the top, you have to stand on a penguin by a penguin, or else the snowman will blow you off and you'll lose Mario's cap. And then without his hat, he takes double damage. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea to go through without his hat, but I did. Another cool aspect of the level is technically outside the level. With a wall of mirrors, you can see Lakitu flying behind you. And using those mirrors is how you discover the entrance. And I just thought that was really cool. So number 4 on my list is Dry Docks. And it has the most beautiful entrance in the game. You start in the sky high above a crater filled with water. With nothing but mountains around you, your only choice is to dive. And then as you dive, you get into a secret dry dock where Bowser keeps his personal sub. Where he goes with the sub, I'm not sure, because if you swim out through the exit that's there, it takes you back to the moat. So he just swims the sub through. I mean, I guess I'm trying to apply logic to a game where you're fighting a giant turtle, but It is also the only level that I know of that is directly affected by another one. If you defeat Bowser in his second level, he leaves with his sub. So some of the stars are easier to collect before you beat him. Interesting, speaking about the sub, we never see it again. So maybe he had to sell it. Probably to afford all his clown mobile floating pods that he has. Plus, also because next time we see him in a main Mario game, he has another mouth to feed. So number 3 on my list is Jolly Roger Bay. Because, who doesn't love sunken treasure? Though, if you would have told me as a child, if you would have told child me that I regarded the 2 water levels so highly, I would not have believed you. I hated water levels. I've always hated water levels, but that's not because of the water temple like most people for Ocarina of Time, but because of Banjo-Kazooie. If you drown in that game, you get to watch them struggle for air and before turning over and floating to the surface like a dead fish. It was traumatic for me as a kid. But back to Jolly Roger Bay. Besides having one of the best level soundtracks in Mario 64, with all that water, you can't die. Since Mario's air is also its health, just dive down and come back up. Bam! Instant health. Even when dealing with a giant eel, the level just feels so peaceful, so serene to me. It's one of the few levels I think that wouldn't be bad to visit. So number 2 is Big Boo Haunt. Big Boo's Haunt. It's unusual under the fact that you don't jump into a painting, but a miniature mansion. And in a sense, I guess you could call it a Luigi's Mansion prequel because you fight King Boo. Well, you fight a giant Boo. And the level itself is divided into 2 sections. You have the manor itself, and then a hidden carousel located in the basement on an outside building. And even the stars themselves are fun to collect, even if some of them involve you running around looking for your missing Boo. And there's that really annoying one where you gotta get it from the top of the mansion. But I also just really love Boos. I think they're great enemies. They're one of my favorite enemies. So that's probably why it's so high on the list. So number 1. Number 1 is Wet Dry World. This to me is the creme de la creme. And the video I watched earlier put this world fairly low, but to me it's the best. It is a gimmicky level, and it involves changing the water level with crystals. It has several places where you can show off your platforming chops with wall jumps and side jumps, and it also has a whole other section. A town, an abandoned town, hidden away. You don't have to leave the level to change the gimmick, like Tick-Tock Clock. And because of the air, you have an unlimited health. And I spent a lot of time in it as a child because it was so nice. The picture of, I think they found out it was a town from Italy. That's weird as the background, and that's kind of creepy. Just the way it looks. But the level itself is really nice. The enemies are also kind of harmless for the most part. They just wander around with a little pad, and when you step on it, they just chuck you into the air. If I had to complain, I would complain that once you blast yourself over the fence and into the town, that's it. You can't escape. At least I don't think there is. So that's it, everyone. That is my list of worst to best Mario 64s. Now, this was based on the 64 version, not the DS version. And also, I didn't include any of the Bowser levels or any of the secret levels. These were just strict the 15 main levels. And then, Mario 64 was a revolutionary game. It still is a pretty solid game, and it definitely should be played by everyone. It's an influential game, inspiring platformers and games in general, all the way through to today, and probably far into the future. Though, if I have a major criticism of it, it's the camera. The camera is horrible. But I think the problem is, it's because they personify the camera. Because think about it. When you get angry, it's not the camera that you're angry at. You're angry at Lakitu. Because Lakitu is being dumb, and he's ramming the camera up you instead of giving you your space. And then the game, this could just be my personal opinion. I own the game on the Wii U and I own it on the Switch. And the Switch controls feel better than the Wii U, at least when it comes to the camera. Because the 64 had C buttons, and so the analog stick on the Wii U was just weird and the camera would do weird things. But on the Switch, it feels tighter. At least that's my honest opinion. But yeah, so this was episode 2 of DreamerTalk. Just an example of how different each episode's going to be. Episode 1 was a news-based. This was a list-based. Like I said, I just going to use this to just talk about anything that's interesting to me. Any gaming topic, anything like that that's interesting to me. So, again, I thank you all for listening and everyone who checked it out. I'm still working on some of the kinks about how to figure out what I'm doing with the podcast, especially creating my own site so people can leave comments and suggestions and we can get a conversation going. But yeah, as always, this will be uploaded on my YouTube channel, so you can go there and leave comments, discussions, maybe tell me how you think one level should be higher, one level should be lower. Maybe you disagree with my whole list, but yeah, let me know because each player, each gamer experiences things different. So I'd be interested to hear what you think is the best level or what you think is the worst level. But anyway, until next week, I hope you all stay good, stay safe, and I will catch you all later.